We left Rincon and continued our exploration around the island of Puerto Rico. This time we were heading toward the southern coast, and we were making a stop at the dry forest. This was a really nice contrast to some of the lusher, greener areas that we had seen before. It was a little bit of a kind of a narrow, windy road to get in here. Basically just wide enough for one-way traffic, but it's a two-way street. And we were saying that at least it's not Belize, where we were going into the Jaguar Preserve, and it was raining and there were potholes, and we were driving that weird car that looked like a shoe, and it's like a miracle that we made it out of there without a flat tire. But at least we have more of like an SUV for this trip, so it's a little better. All right, let's check out the dry forest. After looking at the map and speaking to the man at the check-in desk in what little English he knew, we decided to take the trail to the fort. This was maybe a little bit overambitious, but by the time we got there, we were definitely happy with the views. Our fellow hiker said to stay left at the fork to get to the fort. Oh, neat. That made it worth it. It's a rather boring trail most of the time. Just like I guess what we would call like a fire road, gravel, wide, double track. But at least you get to a nice view. I was kind of starting to have my doubts. The stone fort was originally built by American troops in 1898, and it was a memorial to Captain Capron, who had been killed in Cuba. The structure was then restored in the 1930s and provided a really good area to monitor all the activity around in the bay. But now it just serves as a destination for tourists and apparently graffiti artists as well. Can you get up there? Yeah. Oh shit. Oh, I see. I thought you were gonna like climb up the the railing. No. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't want to test up the Puerto Rican medical system, you know? Yeah. Once you've safely taken the stairs up to the top of the tower, you are rewarded at the end of that 3-mile hike with these amazing views in all directions. You can see the ocean, the bay, the mountains, this very different landscape of the dry forest. And it was around this time that we decided that we were just super happy that we had picked Puerto Rico for our trip this spring. We had debated about whether or not we wanted to come here because of the damage from the hurricane, and a lot of people felt like it was maybe not the safest place to go, but we have nothing but good memories from this trip. Really, really happy that we decided to come here. The dry forest definitely lived up to its name. It was pretty hot and dry. It's sunny. Thank goodness for the breeze, because it would have been kind of a rough hike. I think, what was it, like an hour to the fort and then like an hour back?
Yeah.
And it was like a rocky kind of terrain, mostly flat, a little up and down, but the rocks kind of beat your feet up a little bit. But the view at the end was pretty cool. So now I guess we're gonna head toward Ponce. We stopped in Ponce briefly to grab some lunch, but then we continued on to our Airbnb for that night. We had stayed at a few other Airbnbs already, and I feel like we were starting to get the hang of it, so we knew that we had to contact the host ahead of time to find the real location instead of relying on Airbnb to give us directions there, because they are never correct. So once we knew where we were going, we headed toward that location, and I was so excited to see this Airbnb. We had picked this out specifically because it was an off-grid property that the owner had built himself, and being minimalists and people who live in a tiny house, we are always super interested to see how people live off-grid.
Still gotta close it.
I got it.
Yeah.
That's my workout for today. It's a heavy thing. Oh geez.
Oh god, he wasn't kidding.
Big monkeys.
Big one. Stretching.
Hello, puppy.
That's right there, actually.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it probably is. Hello, doggies.
Hello.
They're sneaking in here.
That's a big guy.
Oh my goodness.
Traction
Are we gonna
control.
make it? Traction control.
Where do I go?
Hi. Hello. Oh, you wanna go? Oh, don't eat my sandwich now. Okay. Get away from the sandwich. I know there's a sandwich in there. And obviously you know there's a sandwich in there. Okay, come on. Come on. Come on. Hi. Hello. Hello. Hello, other doggy. That's a Patrick.
It's a good greeting party.
When we arrived, the owner of the property wasn't home yet, and he told us to just come in and make ourselves at home and meet the dogs. And we got to explore the buildings and try to find our way to our hut. And it was awesome.
Where's next time we meet it?
Oh, we go down there?
Probably.
There's a cat.
Go down?
Yeah, I think so. It's a guess. Oh, yeah. There it is. It's just like camping. Oh, that's why he said take note of where the lights are in the kitchen. could just live in this thing. This little like open air kitchen. The breeze up here is really nice. Oh, hello. Oh, hi. Hi. This was one of our favorite Airbnb experiences that we had on the trip. It was definitely a little bit strange that we just kind of showed up at this person's house and they weren't home and we just settled in. But once we met Ricardo, we felt much more comfortable and we definitely enjoyed just sitting on the property and looking out across the mountains, enjoying that constant breeze. And we decided, of course, that it was coffee time, and we just got to soak in the sunset and this very different feeling to the air on this side of the island. No humidity, still warm, but really dry. We found out later on that Ricardo had purchased this piece of property many, many years earlier and had just held on to it. He was working in the city as a veterinarian, and he didn't have the time at that point to work on the property. But over the last few years, he cleared out some of the land and started to build his house and some of the other structures on the property, like the open air kitchen and this nice little patio area where we were making coffee with our Coleman stove, finally. But we also found out that he sustained a good amount of damage during the hurricane and had to do some pretty substantial repairs to fix his house and the guest house that he has. There was actually another house that he was working on the other side of the mountain that was completely ruined. The island of Puerto Rico has such incredible diversity in this small area that you can easily drive around with your car in a matter of a couple days. You can see some of the most amazing beaches, mountains, caves, rivers, and these arid, dry areas. There's so much diversity and natural beauty contained in this one little area. It's amazing. When we booked this Airbnb, we had read in the comments that the dogs on the property were really great. And I have to admit that was one of the reasons that we wanted to stay here. It was so neat that these dogs had just met us, but they liked to follow us everywhere that we went. If we were sitting and having coffee, they were right there. If we went to the car, they wanted to come with us and see what we were doing. I think this place is like when you were a kid and you wanted to build forts. This is like the perfect fort that you would want to try to build. When we're home, before we go to bed, we do something called the spider check. And here, the spider check is obviously a very necessary thing as well, because of that. Can't really see his body, just legs. So, yeah, spider check. And in addition to the spider check, lizard check. Might wake up a little lizard on you when you're staying in a hut in Puerto Rico. Hopefully not. I don't think I would like that. But there is actually a light in here. I didn't think there was. There's the light. And this is where we're going to be sleeping. Hopefully that spider doesn't have any friends. Close the gate so we don't end up with a dog in our bed.